We're opposing the application for, of course, the very serious reason that this irrigation farmer will be put out of business if he has to pay the stripper price for natural gas, which is a 750% increase over what he is paying now for old gas.
Conoco's job is to sell its gas. You cannot run your company with looking at everybody.
I would have said that Senator Orrin Hatch was part of a hardcore up until yesterday when he made a statement that he felt that the assassination was just the very reason why the president did need support and has declared himself for the sale. So you've got a senator there in Senator Hatch who commands the respect of and may have an influence on several other senators.
Looking out for her daughter.
She's outside right now. Who's this? Is it? Okay, well, hang on just a second and I'll get her. Get her. Edward. 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 Ouch.
Hi. Well, I don't know yet. I'm very nervous.
But when the long-awaited phone call finally came, it was a disappointment.
Oh, you're kidding. Then how are we supposed to find out about the girls? Thanks a lot for calling, but I hope I hear something soon. Okay, well, thanks a lot.
Oklahoma
Bye-bye.
City Police told the family that although Corey was in custody, there was no sign of the missing girls.
They were in the middle of interrogating him or had just gotten started or something, and his court-appointed attorney walked in and cut it all off.
Officials told
So that
Perla
puts stop to
Peterson
that.
it would be the first of the week before
So they
Corey
don't
could
know
be
what
brought to Oklahoma City for further questioning. The disappointment was written on the faces of family and friends.
Oh, no, we haven't given up. We're sure that they're still looking for the girls. They haven't given up on the girls. The only thing we're disappointed in is the fact that we may have had them a lot sooner, and we're worried, of course, who's taking care of the girls? If Corey had the girls, who's got them now and how are they being taken care of, So that's what's worrying us. But we haven't given up. We're sure they'll be back before too long.
That's Mel Tillis, and you are just a Coca-Cola cowboy from KEBC. Good morning, everybody. It's 8:15 at Oklahoma City's #1 country, KEBC, and the Lynn Wagner
You probably
Show
recognize the voice,
morning,
surely the name, but perhaps not the face. Lynn Wagner has been announcing songs and spinning platters at KEBC for 10 years. That was all Wagner really wanted, but this year he went one better. From a disc jockey at the #1 country station in Oklahoma City to being the #1 country DJ in the nation, at least according to the Country Music Association. That's a pretty prestigious honor, but Wagner would have been happy without it.
Okay, has being named Disc Jockey of the Year changed your music goals at all?
No, not at all. Being the top disc jockey was really not one of my goals, starting out. It was a nice award, and I'm thrilled to death to win it, but it was not a goal. Just to play country music and be good at what I do is a goal for me, and I'm happy, with my position here, and winning the Disc Jockey of the Year is, that's just spicing, to the cake and really the top. So I'm happy, and that's what I want to do. Just keep doing it more.
Excuse me just a second. That was Crystal Gale, and Why Have You Left the One You've Left Me For at KEBC. Folks, we've got to go. We have run out of time for this Friday morning. We'll see you Monday morning at 6 o'clock right here at Oklahoma City's #1 country, KEBC.
Charles Schnitzer, Action 4.
Oklahoma City police are looking for a black man in his 20s identified as Bud Ziegler. He's wanted in the shooting death of Clyde Wright Jr. Wright was shot at his Oklahoma City apartment shortly after 11 last night. Homicide Detective Tony Gregory explains what happened after Ziegler walked up to the front door of Clyde Wright Jr.'s home.
When Mr. Wright answered the door, Mr. Ziegler apparently shot him point blank with very few words exchanged. Mr. Ziegler left the scene. There was 4 children in the house at the time, but all of them were upstairs.
The oldest daughter, who is 8, came downstairs to find her father shot in the entryway. She ran outside for help and found several neighbors who had heard the gunshot. An ambulance was called. Clyde Wright Jr. died 25 minutes after his arrival at Presbyterian Hospital. The motive for the killing is very sketchy. Police feel it's domestic related. They're still looking for Ziegler. Several unconfirmed sightings have been received. Patrol officers are checking them for possible leads. Sherry Sellers, Action 4.
We're really not attempting to run against any particular individual. What we are attempting to do is something which I think will be historic in the history of state government. We are going to attempt to chart a new course for state government rather than having continual spiraling growth in government as we've had in the past. We're going to begin to look for areas where we can cut back and either adequately fund necessary programs and pass tax reductions along to the public. Certainly, I don't feel that we've had much leadership in that area.
The Oklahoma City Council spent 4 hours arguing whether or not the city should keep the contract with the State Fair Board. There were pros and cons from people in the chambers. And when all was said, the council voted to leave the contract as it stands. But sometimes between now and next April 15th, to get together with Fair Board members and work out a way of making the board answer to the council more. During today's discussion, State Fair Manager Sandy Saunders and Ward 8 Councilman Bob Frank squared off. Frank says in the past, Saunders has not been very cooperative about releasing information.
I called and requested a copy of your contract with your operator out there, and you told me in no uncertain terms
that I have no
just a minute, let me
authority
finish,
to
and
give
then
it
you can
to
respond. You told me in no uncertain terms that was none of my business as a councilman, none of the city council business. What went on, that you had a lease agreement out there, a contract, and that was none of my business.
Well, I don't agree with you that that was a statement I made, but
Well,
I
have a
also
copy of it.
invited you out
Would you like to listen
see
to a tape
anything.
recording of that? I have a tape recording of that.
Fine.
I'll tell you something, mister. Let me
Yes,
tell you
I
something,
will.
buddy. I've got a tape recording of every conversation I have in relation
thought
to
you were
city
going to
business.
talk
If you'd
here
like to
without
listen,
getting
then I'll
mad.
play it back to you.
The bottom line is it's the Fair Board that will have the option of whether or not it wants to renegotiate a new contract with the city. Ed Stewart, Action 4, City Hall. One, and Fair Board members don't have to renegotiate the Midway contract unless they want to. Ed Stewart, Action 4, City Hall.
I was coming north on Northridge, I guess it was, and heard 2 shots ring out, and then I saw a person in the street that apparently had been shot, and then I saw a man at the front of this home over here with a revolver in his hand, and another person trying to get into a car that was parked in the driveway. And the man fired shots at him, who knows how many, and then he got into the car and accelerated backwards, and the man fired again, and the car just started going around in circles, and that's when I ran and tried to find a phone to tell people to get the police.
Who in the world is in the market for one of these? A recreational vehicle. They're big, expensive, and they use a lot of gas. This one costs $70,000 and gets 10 miles to the gallon. Well, maybe the question is not who, but how many? And the answer, believe it or not, is a lot of people are now in the market for an RV.
Interest rates are high, money is tight. So how can people afford a luxury like an RV? Well, if you consider that airfare, motels, restaurant food are all expensive, maybe a home on wheels is the lesser of two evils. Apparently true here in Oklahoma, where RV sales are booming.
Oklahoma's got the lowest unemployment of any place in the nation right now, so that means people have jobs, people are making money, they get vacations, they want to relax and spend some time away from home. It is a way of life, and people do enjoy it.
Enjoyable, but also expensive. Still, many travelers are convinced the expense will pay off in the long haul. And even if it doesn't, most RV fanatics will probably ride in style anyway. Larry Otis, Action 4.
Unfortunately. So there were other potential stories that we could have done that loosely organized.
There's no question about our support. When you have a large group of members such as we have who are women, of course, it's a very big issue. I think we have a good chance. The exact result of our efforts, of course, won't be known until sometime next spring. We'll just have to wait and see. But we are working very hard for it.
A lot of work has been going on at the Myriad lately. The most obvious is the repair of the flaking exterior. But the recent heavy rains have made another problem glaringly obvious. The roof around the perimeter of the arena, especially near the entrances, leaks like a sieve. It's not a new problem. The leaks have been there for at least a year and a half, and the Myriad management has been trying to fix the leaks since the beginning. After all, they have a valuable piece of real estate on their hands. William Evans manages the food service at the Myriad. This isn't the only convention center where he has worked, but he says it's the best.
It's a great complex. The city of Oklahoma City should be very proud of it. The people in it should be very proud of it. And to let it deteriorate it's a sin under any circumstances.
October 1st, revenue sharing funds came available where $50,000 was put forth where we could secure an architect and engineer, Bozalis and Roloff, who were the original architects, to come in and do a feasibility study of what needed to be on the Myriad roof. And January 1st, funds in the amount of $500,000 are supposed to become available through revenue sharing again for whatever recommendation the architect gives back to us.
The roof on the Myriad is built as a curve, so water will run to the sides and into the drains. But the building is 10 years old, and portions of the roof have settled and set lower than the drains do. In areas where the roof has weakened, leaking has occurred. Management hopes the architects can solve the problems, and they won't have to replace the roof again in another 10 years. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4, at the Myriad.
the wall, and it was standing right here. And whenever I looked over at the wall, it was. The only reason I could say we was all right over in here. We was all cold, and then it just, because it rocks real easy, and it just fell over on them.
No one knows where these teenagers, Charlotte Kinsey and Cinda Pallett, are. We do know, however, that they were last seen with a man who offered them a job at the state fair that was in town. Police are treating their disappearance as a criminal abduction, which opens many avenues to their whereabouts, including white slavery. White slavery is not an attractive phrase, but it is a reality.
I think it really happens, and I think basically it is a form of involuntary servitude involving young children, normally young children, teenagers, who are forced into the service of adults or group of adults, either through fear or normally they're led into it through some form of bribery and narcotics, money or something. And once they get them into it and get them hooked, they're afraid to try to break away. You've got to consider the possibility. There are three rather distinct possibilities. One is that they left voluntarily. The second is that they are in some form of servitude, whether they're strung out on drugs, that they were influenced to leave and are now being held against their will. And then, of course, the remaining possibility is that they're no longer alive.
Whether or not Charlotte Kinsey and Cinda Pallett are victims of white slavery, the crime does exist right here in Oklahoma City. Young girls are often given work in local places such as topless bars, downbeat clubs, and massage parlors. It's a hard life for a young girl to get out of, especially when she's kept under the influence of drugs and alcohol, and at the same time it's a tough crime for authorities to crack. Though a possibility, the hope remains that Charlotte and Cinda's disappearance is not a case of white slavery. Carol Lambert, Action 4.
Yeah, my girl. Girl? Yeah. Okay.
They want their mom.
Tomorrow that.
They were in the
Okay. Okay, this unit's going to a different hospital. You want to go with the kids so you can take them on home and call sick.
Farmers have a tendency to complain all the time. They complain about the weather. They say it's too wet, or they say it's too dry. They also complain about prices. They say they're too low when they're selling or too high when they're buying. It's enough to make you think that farmers hate farming. But if that's what you think, you're wrong. Preston Keeley has been involved in agriculture all his life. He's 68 years old. Keeley farms and raises cattle a little more than a mile east of Arcadia in Oklahoma County. He says he loves what he's doing, even though there are a few drawbacks.
The only thing that we really complain about, I think, is the low return on our investment. As in the hours worked, we feel like we're getting cheated just a little bit, but it's a pleasure to be your own boss and get up and do the things that want to be done. You can have a day off when you want it, if you can afford the time.
Keeley apparently feels the way most farmers across the nation feel.
According to a report from Cotton Incorporated, 95% of the farmers in the country, if given a choice, would prefer to keep right on doing what they're doing. When the same question is put to the general public, only 60% of those polled feel the same way about their occupations. Ben McCain, Action 4 near Arcadia in Oklahoma County.
Some of our people are going to meet with the trustee tomorrow and try to finalize this contract. They will be leaving here around lunchtime today to hand carry the agreement up there and try to get a signature from the trustee. There are some minor areas now that we're still negotiating on, and we may not be able to do this tomorrow, but hopefully we can reach an agreement tomorrow on this sale.
You can bring it up here?
Yeah, I'll bring it up here for you. I won't get your car from you.
You can bring it up here?
Yeah, I'll bring it up here for you.
About 7:32 this evening, officers received a call to a shooting at this address, Villa Creek Apartments. Upon the officers' arrival, they determined that there was a gentleman apparently shot in the head, in the right rear of the head, in the apartment, and he was found between the kitchen and the living room area. At this time, we're still investigating it to determine exactly what happened.
Mom,
I know! I could see him.
for good reason.
New right leaders incorporated into their agendas is in casting their ballots against incumbents. Full of the court to determine when life begins. Vote on the pro-choice side. He finally agreed to give a favorable abortion strategy, a strategy which was later revealed more because as a religious coalition for abortion rights, we believe that the abortion decision must remain with the individual on the basis of her own religious convictions, her own conscience, and free from governmental interference. We do not believe that abortion is an issue which should be legislated.
This is the Daily Oklahoman press room. It's here that the paper is printed, cut, and folded. These presses can produce up to 60,000 papers an hour. The night crew in the press room arrives at 8 o'clock. By that time, the paper's ready to be printed. 3 editions have to be done during the night: the Drive edition, the Suburban edition, and the City edition, which is the Oklahoma City morning paper. At 8:30, the paper's loaded, the plates are loaded, and the presses start to roll. It's not an easy job working in the press room. The crew has to contend with loud noise levels and fast-moving machinery. But safety precautions are taken, and there's a remarkably low number of accidents. To combat the loud noise of the presses, workers are required to wear earplugs and are given a hearing checkup every year. The crew runs the presses continuously until all 3 editions are printed. This normally takes the full 8 hours of the shift. From the press room, the papers are sent to the mailing room, where they are stacked and bundled. Then they're sent down a chute to be loaded in delivery trucks. Before the sun rises, some 137,000 papers will have been delivered throughout Oklahoma City. Delivered early so that you can enjoy the morning paper with that fresh cup of coffee. Sherry Sellers, Action 4.
Ho, ho, yes, I'm the great pretender, pretending that I'm doing well. I seem to be what I'm not, you see.
This is the story about fakes, from heart pumps to helicopters. If somebody makes it, somebody else will fake it. This is the story about counterfeiting, the shadow industry whose reach extends from the blue jeans we wear on the street to the rocket we blast into space. One victim was NASA, which found counterfeit parts in the space shuttle program. The more common victims are you and me.
Consumers in this country and all over the world are getting ripped off in terms of pocketbook, getting ripped off in terms of health and safety.
The counterfeiting story begins with someone like this man in Florida, accused of making fake designer clothes. With a product he can fake, someone to buy it, and a quiet place to work, he's in business.
I don't know who you are or what you are, but you got to get out of my place, okay? Is that fair?
Well, I'd like to talk to you.
No, I don't want to talk to you.
The ripoff comes because customers rely on brand names, a guide to quality. Fake blue jeans are the latest wear to hit our streets, paced by high-voltage commercials. Calvin Klein alone estimates 1 of every 10 jeans bearing its name is counterfeit. Sasson is another well-known national brand name that is being duplicated by counterfeiters, but Sasson is not taking it with their jeans down. I talked with Sasson's national sales director today about steps they take towards thwarting the fakers.
We have a team of detectives here on the West Coast and also on the East Coast, shopping the major stores and major multiple operations and shopping in swap meets and a variety of other outlets looking for counterfeit goods. That's their sole responsibility.